Where do we look for additional answers? Once every while surfaces a question we can't wrap our head around, a question we can't answer using areas of knowledge such as science, which would provide us with factual and concrete evidence-based answers. These questions makes us look for additional answers. The question is, where do we look for these? Well, this may vary between individuals, but for now, we'll be focusing on the areas of knowledge of religion and ethics, both which provide us with distinct answers when science fails to do so. Let's get into a real-life situation. CNN covered in 2014. A 4-year-old girl, Juliana Snow, who suffered from severe case of an incurable neurodegenerative illness called Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, was given the choice by her parents to either stay at home next time she got dangerously sick and die, or go back to the hospital. Let's keep in mind that her coughing and breathing muscles were so weak that the next time she catched even the slightest cold, the infection could settle in her lungs, where it could cause a deadly pneumonia. The doctors believed that if they could save her under those circumstances, she would likely end up sedated on a respirator with very little quality of life. The medical facts weren't up for debate, given that they were proved by science, an evidence-based area of knowledge. But the debate was about her parents giving her the choice to choose the course of her life, or death. There are different opinions depending on the perspective or stance one takes upon a situation like this. If we analyze the situation based on the area of knowledge ethics, we can see how perspectives might oppose depending on one's moral principles. Reason may be used as a way of knowing in order to fully comprehend and internalize a situation and draw conclusions based on it. For example, a deontologist might argue that a 4-year-old does not have the capacity to make such a life-altering decision, so Juliana shouldn't be the one making the choice. A consequentialist might say that it was the right thing to do because Juliana chose to die and would therefore evade the possibly fatal repercussions of going back to the hospital. From a virtue ethics perspective, one could argue that giving Juliana the choice was the right thing to do, given that it was she who was suffering and no one could better understand what she was going through and how she felt than herself, which brings me to my next point. As much as we can all give our input and opinion on the situation, whether we believe it's ethical or not, we don't have the key information, the key knowledge, as did Juliana and her parents. We don't have personal knowledge of the situation. We may know the fact that she suffered from an incurable disease, possibly fatal if she survived, but we don't know what Juliana's suffering was like. We don't know as much as we might put ourselves in the hypothetical situation where our child had Juliana's disease and we had to make the same choice as her parents. What it's really like to watch your child in so much pain. Even if we did have a child suffering from the same disease, our shared knowledge wouldn't be enough to fully understand Juliana's specific situation. One can either support Juliana's parents' course of actions, or one can be against it. It all depends on what one considers to be right and wrong, in one's way of reasoning, which is very ambiguous in cases like this, meaning answers will vary. If we focus on religion as an area of knowledge and faith as a way of knowing, the debate continues because of the different beliefs people have and the discussion of whether faith should be considered a way of knowing. Juliana's parents convinced her heaven exists and she'll be able to run and play and eat whatever she wants there. They instilled in her the belief They instilled in Juliana the belief who didn't have the capacity before, because of her age, to really think about her stand in religion and decide for herself. In this case, Juliana's parents have faith in God and believe that Juliana will be in a better place when she dies, and she would if she chose to stay in the hospital. The belief in God and in heaven. Juliana shares the same belief, since they've ingrained such belief system in her, which could be argued is both ethical or not, depending on a way one chooses to look at the situation. For example, if we look at two completely different perspectives of religion experts, we will come up with contrasting views of the situation. Protheros, who believes humans encounter different problems which have different solutions, and that is how they choose the religion they believe in, would probably say that Juliana's parents believe in God and heaven because they must believe that there is a better life option for their child. They encounter some peace from the suffering in believing in heaven. On the other hand, Harris could argue that Juliana's parents should not paint such unrealistic pictures of heaven to Juliana, because such place as heaven does not exist, since there is no concrete proof or evidence, and science will eventually disprove the existence of such place. While Juliana may have faith in God, and because that's how she was raised, it's mostly faith in her parents' word which she bases her decision on. She completely trusts her parents who are assuring her of the existence of heaven. Moving on to the next real-life situation, Barbara Harris founded a North Carolina-based charity called Project Prevention, which offers a drug addict women $300 if they go under sterilization or under long-term birth control, in order to prevent children being born to drug-addicted mothers or being drug-addicted themselves. The question here would be whether the charity is ethical or not, question science can't answer. In order to answer the question, we can go back to the area of knowledge of ethics. Different views can exist of the charity. It all depends on an individual's moral principles. For example, a consequentialist would probably use reason to deduct the charity is ethically correct in exchanging cash for the prevention of babies born in drug-addicted situations. They wouldn't pay much attention to the fact that women are in fragile situations where they are not in their full capability of making a decision, and the women targeted are mostly from poor neighborhoods, so it's likely that they need the money. Someone with virtue ethics perspective would probably focus on the means to the goals, meaning the way the charity is trying to prevent children from being born to these women. On the other hand, a deontologist might focus on the laws being broken, such as bribing and coercion, since women are being manipulated to giving up their babies, without even addressing their drug addiction issue. In conclusion, what I want to take out of this analysis is, well, first off, when we need to look for additional answers science can't answer, we tend to lean on ethics and religion, two areas of knowledge which aren't evidence-based. Secondly, that we explore these two areas by mainly using the way of knowing of both faith, especially for religion, and reason, especially for ethics. And we all use them and interpret them in different ways, creating our own views and perspectives on given situations. And finally, we must learn to accept that people will have different beliefs and morals as we do, and that they are justified in their head just as we are in ours.